Hello, hi. Right. Ting, 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 ting. All right, let's go. All right, guys, let's start. Let's first start with the most simple controller, which is the not found, right? So in our router, uh, if for some reason the user hit an endpoint that is not defined, right? So we will return an error, not found error. So right now, using its red generator, if you want to know how they handle the error here, you have to click inside here and see how they define this. There's a bunch of things, right? There's a bunch of things. Let's forget about this. Let's create our own error handler. So we want to have something that's similar to this to capture all the route that is not defined on the endpoints that are not defined. You can do app.route style like this, which means anything. Is get a route and then get, for example, I will define the function, a function request response next, very similar to how we define a controller, a handler, right? So here I'm gonna respond a send. I always start with a simple string, not file. Okay, let's try to hit it this endpoint. I will create another request. URL. Anything. Okay, I see my text not found, right? So if I want to create an endpoint for all the method, I can use on here. Right, let's see. Again, does work, same thing. So I create an endpoint that will capture all the exceptions, right? That doesn't match these. On the endpoint that doesn't match these. And I want to apply that to all the methods, get, put, patch, delete, everything. So I use on, and this function will return a very simple string, not found. Right. So now let's respond something meaningful, like so. You can return an error, and you also have a starter code 404. Then you can simply connect. And next here will be handle, will pass out to this function, this middleware, the last middleware in our app. As you can see here, it's at the very bottom, right? So it's going to be the last middleware, app use, the application level middleware, and it's going to be the last middleware. So instead of doing like this, I'm going to say next, new error, not found. Okay. And in here, I'm going to delete everything. Delete everything. I will capture, respond if there's error, respond, send error.message. Right. Else, just forget about else. Right. Again, right? We see the result, same result, but a little bit different with capital F. Right. Same thing here. So that's how the error is captured. It's just middleware, right? Middleware. So this endpoint throw connects, and inside next we throw an error. The first argument, the only argument will be the error. And if there's an error argument here, it's go to our error handler as the first argument. And there we have error, and then we bring the error out, right? So if you want to start code as well, you will want to do something like error dot status equal to by default it's going to be 500. Else you get it from the error. Status. You reassign it, and then error message equal to error message or something wrong. Very simple text. Okay. And then if error, you respond status error.status in JSON's status fail. This is the error, and I would say this one started code instead of status. So here's the status. Error.status equal to error.status or error. So here I call this variable status. Instead of hardcoding fail, I'm going to call it error.status, comma, message, error.message, right? So we give these three fields a default value if there's no value. And right here, when we call next, we need to call send something meaningful. So I'm going to copy this, cut this, let error equal to new error not found, and then error.status code equal 404, right? And then error.status will be fail, for example. We already have the message not found. So I'm going to pass that error object here. Okay, now if I test my route again, you see 404 not found, the message failed, and the status is failed, and the message is not found. Right. So if I don't provide these to value, it will throw status code 500. Status will be error, and the message will be not found. Take a look here. Right. 500 error and not found. So this is how we gonna throw the error, how we pass the error to the next, and then this middleware will return that error for us, right? So we try to keep this static, like don't touch this. If you want to throw any error, just do something like this. So this is a simple version. So I'm going to remove this, not use anymore. Right. So let's go and try to do the same thing in here. For example, Where's my factory? Here's my factory. So for example, I want to return an error here, right? I will try to pass some bullshit ID. Here we go. Get. Okay. So I have an experience with this ID, right? And I will try to delete some bullshit ID which doesn't exist, right? Blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna hit send. You see the error object, right? So now I want to modify this. So here we go. I'm gonna modify it right here. So error, and I'm gonna say error dot status code equal to 500. And then I'm gonna go down, error dot status. The message, we already have the message, we have the code. We also need error dot status equal fail or error. So now I don't need to return the whole line here. Instead, I'm gonna call next and pass in the error object like this. I'm gonna save. Okay. Let's something else. Right. Let's try it again. Right. See the error change. Right. So our next problem is how do we make it dynamic instead of giving 500 every time we want to return an error. So we will create our own error object, right? We're gonna create our own error object. Right, so I'm not gonna delete this line, doesn't need it anymore, don't need it anymore, right? Create our object. Let's go and create it. Where should I put it? It's a class. It's gonna be a class. That looks like this. Right? You only do it once. Class is just JavaScript. It doesn't have anything to do with NPC or anything. It's just JavaScript. Basically it's the object, right? So it's outside of the NPC. It's not NPC. It's just a helper. A helper. You can call it utils if you want. Let's create a folder util and I will explain. Okay. Utils. Okay. Inside util, create something called app error. .js. Paste everything here. So here we go. We create this. Looks very similar to React app, right? React class by React, class by component React, right? You have class. You extend it from React.component, right? You also have constructor, and you have shopper, and this something very similar. They are all class. So let me explain it. We create a new class called app error. We inherit all the properties from the built-in class. Error is built-in, right? So this line here means we create a new class, and that class inherit all the properties, all the methods from error. And constructor here is when we create a new instance of this app error, we want to pass in these two arguments. So for example, here, if I want to create a new instance of app error, I'm going to do it like this. Cause error equal to new app error. And then I'll pass two arguments. The first argument will be started code. Right. You don't have to copy exactly like this. Just look, take a look. You can copy and paste from the lab. Trust me. Nothing changed. Okay. Try to understand how it works here. So app error, we will pass in the start code, which is, for example, 404 in our case, not found. Okay, and then the message, page not found or round not found, something like that. So now I'm going to copy this. You can do something instead of. So now go back to app. No, just look. Don't try to type. Okay. So instead of doing 3 lines like this, right, we can do in just 1 line. Right. That also works. Yes, you do. Cons app error equal require utils and then app error.js. Okay, but let me explain everything inside the class here. Create a new class. An object. Class is just an object. So we have 2 arguments when we call the object. We call the class. We initiate a new instance. First, it's going to be code, and then the message, right? Code and the message. And how do you explain this syntax? So this is something that belongs to this class only, right? So you have 2 arguments, started code and the message here. Started code and the message here. Right. And then started code will be, the value here will be whatever you pass in, right? For example, here you have 404, and the message will be rounded file. Let me try it first. Here, not here. Where is it? Here. Okay. As you can see here, fail and rounded file 404. Same thing. Just 1 line. And how does it work like that? We have something called started code dot status, and don't worry about this. For now, we are not worrying about this, so just ignore it. And this, it generates this function, the error.capture stack trace. It generates a stack of errors for you using the built-in method of error. So here's the documentation on how to use it. The first argument is the error that happened inside this object. The second argument is we limit, like the stack is going to be very long, right? We don't want to pollute our response like that. We only want to show where it's gone wrong, not the whole long stack. That's why we have 2 arguments. And if you want to understand how it works, it's very complicated. Go here. It's from Node.js. You have error, capture stack trace, right? You have 2 arguments. The first one is the error object. The second one is optional. It's a function. So in this case, constructor is actually a function, right? As you can see here, right? Function, arguments, and the body of the function. Okay. So basically, the second argument is just to limit the stack, to not let it like populate too much. And there's a description on how to use it here. And if you want to get the stack, you just do error.stack, and let's see how it works here. I will go to my app.js, go down to the error controller. So I create 1 more field called stack. Okay. Oh God, sorry. Stack, and then it's gonna be error.stack. Okay, save. Okay, I'm gonna test. Here we go. That's a stack. Where did it fail? If you look at the stack, you read it, and that's long. Right, that's not enough. It's outside of this stack, so you cannot find anything wrong, but you know something wrong in the router because you see the route repeat a lot. You see something wrong in the router, then you narrow down the error, where's the error come from. Whew, that's that. All right, so let's customize our error response instead of doing like this. So now we need to check if the error, if we want to handle the return the error in development mode or production mode, for example. So here I have not env equal to, I'm going to say development, right? Just watch. You don't have to code. Development, and here I will check in my app.js. There will always be error because the handler will capture the error. So I can now remove this. There's always be error, so I need to check. So now I check another thing. Process.env.not.env, process.env.not_env. If it is development, it's not development. If it's not development, then I'm going to show only the message, the status and the message. I don't show the stack, for example. Okay, so I'm going to copy the whole line here and remove the stack. Okay. If let's say if else, I respond this with the stack. Okay. So now I need to shut down my server. Stop. Amen, run dev. Okay, now I'm gonna test. So this is development mode. So you still see the stack. Okay. So what if I toggle it backward like here? Else. So you will not see the stack. Right. Okay. Now more. So there will be something like here you will have another problem. So how do you know which number you want, which response here you want to render? Sometimes it's fail, sometimes it's error, sometimes success, sometimes it's okay, right? It's gonna be 3 cases. Okay, and then fail, sometimes it's error. So how do we define these status response? Well, actually no. Fail is something like we generate the error, we generate. An error is something called it's called programming error. I have an explanation here. So we have two kinds of errors, right? Operational error, which related to our logic, right? For some reason, for that route is not found, or you're not authorized, or you provide wrong data, something like that. It's called operational errors, meaning those errors we generated and we respond. There's another error called programming error, which is, for example, when Mongo trying to do something and it cannot. So those kind of stuff is programming error, and usually we have internal server error. If you look at, if you visit some website, sometime you will see this started code 500. So basically, something that happened inside their backend that they have never checked, like they have never handled. So basically, we have two types, and this type we start with 500. And this type we usually start with 4 or 3. So usually 400, or 401, 400, and then 404, sometimes 403. Then we need to define the message or the status depending on these code, right? So here's how we go do it. In my example code here, let's go, where am I? App error. So here I actually define. So the status will be fail if the code starts with 4, right? and it's going to be error if the code is not, it doesn't start with for, but it can be 5, right? So actually here in this class, I add this line just to check to modify the status message, right? So you also have something called is operational. Basically, every single error that is generated by calling app error is operational. That's why we have one line. This is operational is equal true. We don't have to check anything. By default, it's true because we generated it. Right. So this is very hard. All right. So we have that error, and now we need to capture that error automatically. Instead of using try and catch, right? We have the error handler, we have the error object, we have, now we need to call that error object automatically. Let's take one example here. I'm going to use delete, right? Delete. The error handler. So now I don't want to use try and catch. I don't want to use try and catch. I will use something else. Man, this is hard. Let's take this one first. Experience, create a new experience, right? So I don't want to use try and catch here. I'm gonna remove it, but before we remove it, let's define something. That's called a higher order function. You actually use that function a lot in React. Guess what it is? A higher order function. It's a function that wrap another function and return the function. That's so complicated. But you actually use this function before, something like similar to this before. Guess what it is in React? Yeah, you use it. You also have something called higher order component, right? So in React, it's for the router. React router, right? You have to wrap router around your app, right? Remember? You have to wrap router around your app. So this router also a higher order component. And the return, what it return is the app. Here, very similar. Here, very similar. Cat async, it will return a function. See, return a function. And this function will do, this will be our controller, the normal controller. It will try to do something. If it failed, we have a dot catch here, which will catch all the error. I know this one is very hard to get. That's why you don't need to code it. Just understand how it works, copy and paste. That's okay. So let's define a function. Same thing here. I'm going to define a function. Cat async. .js. And I'm going to const cat async. It's a function. Oh God, I forgot. Function is return another function, and this function I forgot how to define sometimes. Right. So this function here is an argument. Inside that, inside the body, we return another function, and there's a reason why we have to return an anonymous function, because we want to use these arguments, request, response, and next, inside the controller. That's why we have to define them first, and then pass them down to the children, the message function. All right, it's going to be like this. Request, response, next. And then we have func. We pass them request, response, Next. If something wrong, we catch the error. Next, catch error. Right. So here we go. Right. So catch function is a higher order function. It will receive a function as an argument and return a new function. Oh wait, what is it? Oh, wrong. Sorry. Copy wrong one. Here we go. Right. Right. Here we go. At Asian's higher order function have an argument as a function as an argument, and it return a function. But here, if we don't have this part, we return directly a function like this. It will throw undefined error, request, respond, and next is undefined, right? So that's why we need to return. We need to define these three first by using anonymous. This function actually have these arguments. Function here have these, and it will try to do something. It's like then a bunch of time, and then after all, it will catch. Just like how try and catch works. It would try to do something else, try to do all of those things. If something fails, it catch the error and return connects on that error. So we don't care about the then, we only care about that catch. So this function is gonna catch the error for us, and I'm gonna export that. Export module export equal to cat agent. Okay, and then let's import and use. So you can do something like this: cons cat agents equal to require. Go out one level, up one level, utils, go to cat agents, and then call the function up on here. Cat agents is a function. It takes the whole thing here as an argument, right? The whole thing here as, oh God. The whole controller here as an argument, handler. I paste it. Look at this function, right? Inside here is another function. Now I can safely remove try and catch. Right, that's what. Also, you don't want to return something that is very long. Let's refine it. So instead of return respond .set 400, I'm gonna do next. Next. So next, I'm gonna new app error. 400 code is 400. And then the error message is this. Okay, so now I can safely remove these. All right, so now I also need to import app error as well. Okay. Right, that's it. Let's see what happened here. If I don't throw in the title, I will try to create a new experience without giving a title. All right, create a new experience without the title. Remove this line, save, send. So now you see the error. And title and description tag are required. Where is it coming from? Where is the message coming from? It's from here. What if I change it to something very short? Hello, which doesn't make any sense, right? Again, it's hello, right? See, It's very short. You don't need to try and catch. Right. It's faster than using rest and. I would say it's easier to understand as well. You mean now when you see this, you know it's an error, right? And 400 is something that we define. And here's the message. The code and the message is very clear comparing to using dot status 400 and then dot JSON something. So here, if there's a number, and let's take a look at the app error. So if we start with 4, we use fail. If it doesn't start with 4, it start with 500, we use error, right? So right now, for some reason, how do we make it fail? Here, how do we make it fail? Here, how do we make it fail? The whole controller? So how about using tags? With some, no, it's still strings. All right, I'm going to use tag as an object instead of an array, right? So let's see. So I still have title, but now I use tag as an object or string. Here we go. Oh no. Here we go. Okay, let's send it. So now it's 500. See? 500 now. And there's an this error is programming error. Okay. It's not what we define at all. Array is not map. It cannot be cannot call map on array because on R, because R is not an array. It's a string. All right, so that's how we customize the error, how we handle the error manually. There are more stuff to do in the lab, but I don't want to confuse you anymore than this. I think the basic is here. If you want to look at the specific case, so right now you have a bunch of different cases. So you have type error, you have other type error. For example, here in the lab, I have cast error, which means you cannot cast an ID to Mongo object ID, Mongoose object ID. You have duplicate error, which when you try to insert a duplicate data into your database. You have validation error, which is the field is not, the data type in that field is not correct. You have a bunch of different errors, but these are the most frequently seen. Right. So here we go. Go down. You have to do more stuff, but that's optional. Okay, optional. I just list it down here if you want. You recap again? Yes. So earlier I tried to use a very simple error, which is 404, right? Inside app.js 404. So here I capture all the routes with all the methods that is not handled by these middleware, router middleware. So you have some syntax called star here. And every request that fall into this endpoint, go to the endpoint, we'll expect to receive an error, route not found, 404 route not found. So here we go. Because we know that when you go to this this route is an error already. So I'm just calling next, and next calling on, and next it will go directly to the error handler. Next with an error will automatically go to this handler, this middleware. Right. So if there's an argument inside the next function, right? it will automatically go to this middleware, error handler middleware. Auto. If you don't have argument, it will try to go to the next middleware line in the chain. If there's an error, an argument here, it will treat as the error and we will call this middleware right away. And in here, we actually define, if there's no such code, we use 500 as the default. If there's 400, we use 400, right? So we don't need this. We already have app arrow, so that's why we don't need that. Also, in app arrow, start code, we can do it like this or 100 here, right? And here, we don't need, where am I? I'm lost. app.js, we don't need this line as well. Just remove it. And we also don't need this. We already have the message when we call app error. So we don't need any of those three lines. We make it simple. So here we have two environment, development or production. So depending on which environment we are running on, we will handle the message accordingly, the error accordingly. So for example, if development, we throw in the stack. If just a version mode, we just show the message. Okay, status message. That's it. It's very clean. So how do you check? I'm gonna remove this and send again. Okay, grab. I change this one back. Sorry. Let's try with a very simple string. Blah blah blah. Right. See. What's that? Sorry, something wrong here. Oh, it's undefined. I cannot remove that. Starter code undefined. I didn't have it that logic here. Oh my God, sorry. Here we go. We need it. We still need that. Okay, don't need this. This one. Oh. Okay, here we go. We only see error 500 and the message is not a function. So if I change this one to production mode, development mode, it will show the whole stack for you. It's very helpful when you want to debug without looking at the console, the terminal. Right.
What's the EV?
It's a variable here. So you can do more stuff inside this this handler. You can be more specific. You look at the stack or the error. There's some other stuff. I would say let's console error. See what happened. There's a lot of things inside the error here. Let's send the same thing. Look at the terminal. So the whole thing here, object. Oh wait, you should have something. Okay, we have status, we have start code, we have stack, we have type error. So you need to check if it's type error, then you will do something else. So here we go. If it's type error, where is it? Oh, there's no. So here's the most frequently seen cache error, which is the MongoDB or Mongoose. From Mongoose, you provide the wrong ID, the wrong format. It cannot cast that string into Mongo to object ID. That's one. Duplication error, you see start with this code, 110K. And also validation error, which come from Mongo as well. If you don't be specific, it's going to throw 500 error, right? But inside 500, you have more specific case, cast, duplicate, validation. That's why we have a bunch of if else here. You can copy and paste the code, it works. So yeah. And sometimes for duplication error, sometimes you have multiple fields. You have error on multiple fields, not just one. So that's why it's an array. And is it an array? Which one? Yeah. Oh, it's not. Sorry. Oh, this one is error. There's multiple fields. It can go wrong. So that's why we need to use a map here to handle all the to show all the fields, right? And duplicate is only one duplication, maybe one, maybe two. Cast error is maybe one, two, right? But yeah. So basically, you can copy and paste these, or you can just ignore these. Just follow until this part is okay. It's done, right? So instead of call response right here, I create another function just to show the response. Small detail, right? So let's start copy and paste. You can do it on your own. Yeah, this one is hard, but that's why you can copy and paste. And the code is you can use this code on pretty much every app. It's very similar. Right, try to copy and paste and see what happens. If it fails, we have. Yay. Question: when should we do factor in error handling? Oh, good question from Anh Huy here. So when should we do refactor and error handling? Well, for error handling, you should do it right at the start. Right at the start. Right when you start your application, you should do it first. Because just copy and paste, right? You copy everything, you set up everything. So and then during development, you can simply call here. You don't need to use try and catch. You simply call do everything without try and catch. If you want to return an error, just call next. Very simple. So very good question from Anh Huy. Do this first. Error handling first. Copy and paste that first. Other questions? When should we do refactor? Well, after you do everything, like we said before, after you have done everything, and then you are in the middle of development, and then you see, okay, I repeat code a lot. So how do we make it softer? So that in the future, if I want to change something, I don't have to change it all in all other places, right?
Plan the refactor from the beginning?
No, there's nothing to refactor at all.
Only after we make all the function that we must.
Yeah, if you have experience, yes, you can do it at first, but there's nothing to refactor at all in the beginning, right? So normally you will write code, you write a bunch of code, and then you go back and refactor your code. But for error handling here, you need to do it first. You need to do it first. How about refactor the other function? Okay, there's understand on how far you have to go with that. Like you don't spend all time just to refactor your code. Right now your code is not that much. Like your code base is not very long. There's no much like nothing to refactor now. So I advise to copy and paste the error handling to your code. I think that's the only like I would ask you to copy and paste. Yeah, that's the only feature that I will ask you to copy and paste. Error handling. Right, explain. This function is very confusing. This one, right? A function that receive another function as an argument and then return a new function. Yeah, this one is complicated. I've seen this fight every time I talk about error handling. What the hell is this? I've been struggle with this a lot. Like, why does it have to be like this? Why do we need to use arrow function right here? Why don't we just return function like this? So basically, this function will receive, it's an argument, but itself, it will receive these three arguments, right? And then when you return it, and if you call it like this, the scope, something from the scope doesn't allow to call it directly from like the in return. You need to define like here. And then here is an async stuff. So you have dot then, and then finally you have dot catch, right? So we don't really care about then here, right here. So we can remove them. And catch, if you want to make it shorter, you can catch, you can just call next. So next will automatically capture the error and then use it as an argument inside next. It's very similar to this. But here's better. Right, cool.
Can I see the code again, Tony, for
The what?
the
Okay, this part you already have in the lab, so don't copy it from here. In the app error, you also have this in the lab. You don't have to type, just copy and type. This function here will generate the stack inside this scope, inside this inside this block, between this and this constructor. Right now you may wonder what the hell is constructor and super. Let's forget about it right now. Don't worry about it too much. We'll cover it inside the class topic. Okay.
Can I see the AppJS again for the stack?
Stack. Just error.stack. So by default, error object, the error object, the built-in one, we have that properties. Then we have cause, for example, cause error equal to new error. Message, right? So here, error will have something called stack. Same thing here. Our error here is customized, but it still have the stack. Right. Sure. How about refactor the other function? Which function do you want? Okay, let's try to refactor this one. Okay. Right here, I'm going to const catch async equal to require. utils cat async. Okay, so now we can call it right here as async, grab the whole thing here, then delete try and catch. So now instead of throwing next, I'm gonna throw remove everything here. All right. And if there's no doc, instead of return, respond, blah, 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 let's do it in a more beautiful way. Next. Return next. New app error. Cause app error. Require. Utils app. Right. For all four, message is no document file. Right. Shorter. Right. So that's why I say do this error handling first. So you don't have to use try and catch every time you create a new function, right? And also the way that you return an error, easier to write, shorter to write, easier to read, right? Easier to maintain. Similarly, you have to do it in every single route. So that's it. Question, Vin?
Can you explain more how you find that forward again? Which number means what?
It's mean one and what? All right. So here we go. Yeah. Actually, HTTP status code. Yeah. So there's a whole page about this, right? 500. There's a bunch of 500 something, 400, 401, 402, 403. So click on those. The server encounter an unexpected condition, right? That stop the whole request. That's something unexpected. Means something we haven't handled. Okay. And what is 400? Bad request. So it's a client error. The client doesn't provide enough information or the correct data or the correct syntax, right? So what is 401? Unauthorized. We know that. We have 403 forbidden, 404 not found, method not allowed, 405, a bunch of different code. So it depends on, yeah, we no, we learn, we struggle first and then we learn the correct way. But at least you know how to use try and cut, right? And yeah. So actually, I actually linked you this link in the first couple of days when you reach the backend side. But I bet anyway you have read it. A cat async. All right, Smith is in the lab. Smith, right? Really? All right. So here's the long way. If you want to make it short, you can do it like this. This syntax next, like it will automatically capture the error and then pass it inside next function, right? I know you're lost. What? Who you have question? Christina?
Oh, she's not here.
Oh, she had a meeting at 1:30, so she had to leave. Usually, you mean usually you ask, right? Don't worry, guys. All right. Bottom line, error handling. You need to know what to copy and where to paste. All right. So here's what you copy. You need this cat asins, right? You need app error. You can customize more, but this is enough, I would say, for now. Copy from the lab, paste it, create two files, paste it there. And how to use cat asins. All right, look at this. For example here, how to use it? Well, just use cat asin and wrap the whole controller, the whole handler, the whole function. Right, cat asin, put the whole function that you define already. For example here, the whole function here. Put them inside the cat asin argument. There you go. And now you can remove try and catch. Remove try, remove catch, the whole catch. That's it. If you want to throw error, you can use next. Instead of return a JSON, now you can just call next, and this app error will when you call next with an argument, the error controller middleware will automatically trigger, and they are here. Okay, and depending on the environment that you're running on, they will render differently. This function also in the lab. Copy and paste. Copy and paste. Right, that's it. Any other question, Huy? To question. Oh my God, Christina will like when she come back to you like what the hell? Right. So if you don't have any question, I'm gonna stop everything. Recording.